Start the recording. There we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Embodied Empathy Practice. Before I introduce this presentation, I would like to read some announcements and guidelines. A copy of these can be found on the conference page. Please note that live captioning can be turned on or off for this presentation. In order to cultivate a community of respect, compassion, and empathy, I ask that you use respectful language and engage using I statements while speaking or using the chat. Take care of yourself by taking breaks, managing Zoom fatigue, and reaching out for support if you need. We do not tolerate hateful or aggressive words or actions. And if harm does occur, we will invite a transformative practice to address the harm. While participating in the session, please ensure that your Zoom name matches the name with which you have registered and include your pronouns in your name. We ask that you refrain from Zoom hopping and with sharing Zoom links with others. I am available to help if you have difficulties with technology or with finding the correct session. Please be aware that this session will be recorded. If you do not want your video or audio to appear in the recording, you may leave these functions off. Once recordings are available, please do not share these links with others. In order to receive CEUs for this presentation, you must complete the CEU quiz. A link to the quiz can be found on the conference virtual access page. Now, I would like to introduce Jaya Narayan.
Thank you so much, Jesse. My name is Jaya. I am joining you all from Melbourne, Australia. So it's really early in the morning, so you have to support me to stay awake and alive through this process. And something about myself is I'm a psychodramatist, a somatic practitioner, and an expressive arts therapist. And I have a private practice and also teach in Melbourne in the master's program. Um, I would like to start, and this is how we often start in Australia, is by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land that we joined from. So I like to take a moment and acknowledge that I am on traditional lands of the Wurundjeri uh, people of the Kulin Nation, and that the indigenous knowledge and culture has been never ceded. The land has never been ceded, and I am here to um, acknowledge any elders of any First Nations culture who are present here in this workshop with me. I pay my respects to them all in this moment. So this is a workshop, so I'm going to invite our participation. I would be offering a few experiential processes and at various points in the workshop, invite you to share what you might be coming to know. So when and as you feel comfortable, you might want to either unmute yourself and speak at that point or share through chat, or if you feel very brave, you might even come on screen and join me here. Just see how you go. So what I'm intending to do is share what I'm coming to know about embodied empathy. And this is more from a place of being a practitioner, that when we think about our work, a way of knowing about our clients is actually to connect with what might be felt through our own body and what we might be sensing from the inside. So, a few ways in which we could access it is what I might offer today in this workshop. For setup, I'm sure you already have. If you have any material that you want to use, this could include any creative material that's around you, because often in the processes of being with your experience, you might not have words, and often this is where the creative arts comes in, because you might find a shape, or you might find a color or a texture that might be more connected or to how you're noticing yourself, and then the words will follow. So if you have found objects, or you have material, I'm going to invite you to have that alongside now. So I'm going to begin by just inviting us to find our bodies in space. So whatever that phrase feels like for you, you might want to feel into your the shape your body is making on the chair. If you're sitting on a chair, or if you're standing up, you might pay attention to your feet on the floor. If you're walking, you might notice the air around you. So just feeling into your body now. And often we tend to hold attention or strain in particular parts of our body. So if you want to just take a moment and make any adjustments to support yourself, and I can see a few of you sort of rotating your neck, but you might also want to notice if you want to lean back or you want to stretch. So whatever feels like supportive in this moment to attend to your body. So just allow us a few moments here and just sensing into what you might need. And if you want to just take a moment and make a note of how you might be now, and this is often really important in bringing our bodies in, is establishing a baseline, like where am I now? How am I feeling now? And so then anything that's shifting alongside is new, perhaps, and important for us to pay attention to. Just want to thank everyone who's joined us on screen. It feels really good to see your faces. I want to just speak to this aspect of embodied empathy, just to just to explain my own working definition of that, and then from there, what might we discover together today? And so I love to look up etymology of words, and when we think about the word empathy and difference between empathy and sympathy, the root word sim is with, and M, the root word for empathy, M is in. So it's really to explore for me what it might feel to be in the body of another, and how might that experience be different from being with them. And so, as a practitioner, I have been focusing a lot on bringing someone's experience in my body, shaping my body based on that, and like learning more about what I might bring to attention from that experience. And a few sort of phrases that are quite common alludes to embodied empathy. I mean, I'm sure we've all heard of um, have a heart, or walk a mile in my shoes, or I've got your back. There are a few others. Uh, Butterflies in my stomach, or tuning into my frequency. All of these are like very physical, physiological, visceral words that speak to the qualities of empathy, which is it is very embodied. It's from connecting and locating bodies, rather than a conceptual, cognitive sense of a human. So just a sense of where I'm coming from in this presentation. Is there any questions for me so far, before I share slides? No? Thanks, Catherine. Uh, I feel like the reason for me, this practice is important is because a lot of times, unconsciously or consciously, we do have power in this field as practitioners, and we've also internalized a lot of the colonial practices that tell us about how we might practice and what we might bring into our room and what we don't allow ourselves to bring into the room with clients. And honestly, I'm questioning a lot of that because it feels like that's to support practitioners not to feel enough and to sort of stay um, safe and allow the clients to do all the work. And I am been thinking about that as perhaps not supportive for me as a person who wants to decolonize my work. And so I might invite us to have a think about, at the end of this presentation workshop, what might be a small way in which you might want to bring yourself in alongside your clients. And even if there's one thing that you might take away, that's good result from this workshop. So I might just share the first thing that we might do together. Um, just give me a second. Are you able to see my slides? If you could give me a, yeah, great. Okay, cool. Let me just get into, how do I go into, oh yeah. So here's the flow of the work that we might do together is we will try and situate empathy in the body, and then we'll explore this experientially. I will share a video of uh, my own exploration of fear, And I might ask us to notice how you are responding to that in your own bodies, and what do we know more about another. Here it's me. uh, if we just listen to our bodies, I guess. And then we might do an experiment where I'm going to invite us to step into, through creating a shape or a gesture of the body of one of your clients, and like walk around in the world as them and see what you might learn from that practice. And then I'll end with any questions that you might have. So here's the first prompt. I'll just let that be here so you can have a look at it and then. Oh, sorry, did the sharing go off? Uh, so I'm going to invite you to take the next 5 minutes or so and pay attention to a moment when you felt empathically held by a professional. And as you step yourself into that moment, if you could sense how you received care or connection or validation from them, what did you notice, perhaps now in reflection, through their body, through the ways in which they um, shared of themselves with you, not so much in terms of what they said, but how were they present to you? So I'm just going to stop sharing because I can't see your faces and it's hard for me to connect. So, is there any questions on this slide? Okay, I'm just going to stop sharing screen. And I might give us like 5 minutes or so. Thanks, Michelle. Just to step in, and if uh, you have a way to capture that, you might want to write some words down, but you might capture as well um, some other creative way. So if you, yeah, I'll stop talking now so you could reflect on it for yourself. We can spend another minute here. So when you feel ready to come back, and if you like to share, either lend your voice or put something on chat on what did you notice in that reflection, what felt important for you.
Um, I'd love to speak to that from a musical perspective. I went over to my keyboard
Uh-huh.
and just was playing around with motifs. If I was going to make a motif for certain professionals that I've worked with over the years, what would they sound like? And I
Mm-hmm.
found this lovely contrast between my treble higher hand notes being full of energy and in some cases you know busy and crazy and all over the place, and this bass that just kept containing and
Mm-hmm.
and was very repetitive and was very calming and soothing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Jessica. It's such a beautiful metaphor. Yeah, thank you.
Been working on this kind of all day, but it
Uh-huh.
just keeps growing and changing. But like
Uh-huh.
connections, I was working on this part right here during that reflection and like trying to figure out like the thought that was coming up for me was a moment when I was having a strong response to something, but I didn't really understand why I was having that response. And the person just
Mm-hmm.
like sitting with me and
Yeah.
through kind of the chaos and the muck. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what I was exploring,
Mm-hmm.
the colors and
Yeah.
the lines and how they interact with each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the gifts
Sitting,
kind of
sitting,
were space and
sitting.
time.
Yeah, and sounds like as well knowing when to be silent. Yeah. Thanks, Annie, for your sharing. And Michelle's put in something on chat as well if you'd like to have a look at that. Thank you, Michelle. The ability to pause and wait without judgment.
I was kind of exploring through stacking these rocks that I keep on my desk. Some of them are painted and some of them aren't. Um, and as I was like trying to figure out what the structure was, like what is this structure of holding, I realized that
Uh-huh.
like crap, it's probably this table, this thing that like I wasn't even really examining very closely.
Uh-huh.
That was even like more of a base to the structure that I was trying to create. And then I started playing with like, okay, well, what if I'm on a teetering surface versus like on the table? Um, and so it was just like this moment of like, oh, click, nope, it wasn't even the things I was balancing. It was the surface I was working on and the assumption about the surface that I was working on.
Oh my God, that is so profound. Thank you so much for sharing. So it's almost like the body as the ground on which we are working, and that is the containing base. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, and Catherine's offered and Linda's offered. Thank you. Hmm. I might wait for another one or two if anyone wants to share before. Um,
I kind of felt some wanting to like give myself a hug or like lean in a little
mhm.
bit, and my cat is on my lap currently, so I was like doing those movements to her.
Uh-huh.
That I kind of remembered. So just yeah, kind of feeling in my body what that felt like to be kind of um some was like excitement. I got like a hug when I came back. Um
Yeah.
or just like a, kind of gentle like touch on my arm.
Uh-huh.
Um so I just found myself doing that to my
Yeah. Yeah. What a beautiful relational experience there. Thank you
Mhm.
for sharing.
Yeah.
And it feels like the experience of having weight. I think weight is an important quality in feeling ourselves in our body. And it feels like the cat offers you a sense of um, stability from the place of weightedness. So yeah,
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, thank you. I asked around many professionals like yourselves as to what was this aspect for them, and now I might share a slide that sort of captures already some of what we've shared amongst ourselves, but just a way for us to notice that when we think about embodied empathy, we're not looking at like really big things. We are looking at very micro aspects, um, either as professionals or from professionals. So I might just allow you to be with these qualities that I captured. I'm just going to stop sharing the slide now. But as you might realize already, it is the micro. It's not the big things, it's the really tiny things that we might be picking up on in ourselves. And then it's also somehow not pretending. It's something that is. It's spontaneous. It's not, there are things that we learn in being practitioners that we do automatically. And if there is no congruence to that, our clients pick up that that's not real. That's the body, right? The body tunes into the frequency from where an action emerges. So, something very important about our own tuning into ourselves and noticing responses as congruent or incongruent, and how might that be received in this space by another. One thing I wanted to share, one of the professionals said to me, and I found that this really beautiful expression. I felt welcome when they stopped the chat, took a breath, and paused, slowly looking at me. It was in that moment when the assumptions felt put aside and what was present came alive. So I might invite us now to do another check-in with ourselves now to see how our baseline might have shifted in feeling into the presence of an empathic other. So just like we started this morning, I'm saying morning because it is my morning, but this afternoon, to connect with yourself in the shape that your body is making now, noticing even without looking at sensation, which might be sort of a deeper experience, what might be shifting in the skin of your body, which is perhaps a sense of temperature or weight or muscles. If we just stay with the physical, even now, what might we notice? So let's take another minute or two to sense into our body. And allowing yourself to make adjustments. Often we do have the supports available to us, but we might unconsciously not allow those supports. So the back of the chair is a really good support. Our feet on the floor is very good support. There could be a weight through a blanket or a cushion that you might want to have. And I think it was Getty who said something about the table as the containing structure, and it's our body as that, metaphorically. If we could contain ourselves first. I might just see if anyone wants to put on chat anything they're noticing now in their body that might have been a shift in quality, something different from where you might have started. Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, some very nuanced noticing there. And I think it's so beautiful to have a sense of what is available and what is not available and what's shifting. Thank you. And if you might want to have a look as well for what others are sharing on chat. I might lead us now into the next experiential. And just to set it up a little bit, this is a video exploration, very rookie video of me. Thanks, Stephanie. That sounds amazing. It's a video exploration of me. I used found sounds and movement and non-verbal making to explore fear. And I did it at the time when a lot of my clients were bringing fear into the space. And I really wanted to have a sense of my own fear and what is it that I might learn about it. And so I practice this particular way of being in the body called authentic movement. If I'm sure many of you are aware of it, where I can be with impulses in the body and allow for that expression to happen. And so then I just have put together this video and have made it public on a YouTube channel. And often in interactions with clients, they really appreciate that I have made it public and that they can see my own process and that they're not alone in being with their stuff. And they can see that a practitioner is able to put something out in the world. So what I might do is I might share the video now. It's about 6 minutes or so, and you can pause at any time, get up and like not watch it anymore if you feel like I've got what I've got. But at the end of that, I might ask us to just stay with a moment in the video and how might you have experienced me reaching for you in that moment? How was I wanting to be received by you if you were a practitioner? And if you want to, after watching, we'll spend about 20 minutes making or creating or forming something of how did you notice that in your body? What did you notice? And how might you be responding to me? So this aspect of reaching and being reached is foundation to empathy. Is that clear enough for everyone? Yeah. So how did you feel like I was reaching for you and how might you reach back? So I'm just going to firstly make sure that this works. Firstly, so let's make sure it does. Just tell me if someone can unmute, because when I open my screen, then I can't see any faces. Tell me if you can see my video now.
Yes.
Yeah, the video's good.
Oh, great. Okay, so I'm just going to mute myself now and invite you to witness my process, and then I'll share what we might do together. But the invitation here is to stay with my experience and notice how was I trying to reach you and how might you reach me back in a multimodal creative exploration that we might reflect on later. Okay. Fear is an old friend that makes me hide and holds everything tight. I want to disappear, look away, give up, drag, and believe that I have nothing to say. And play says, everyone's here. Look around. Is anyone here?
This is my experience. I have something to say. I am here. Hide and holds everything tight. I want to disappear, look away, give up.
I might invite us first to do our own sensing of our bodies now and just noticing first up, what might you be aware of in your body? And when you feel ready, you might want to take the next about 15 minutes to explore a way to share your experience of being reached and reaching from a particular moment of the video. And you could explore that in any modality of your choice. And I'm giving a 15-minute timeline so you can also like maybe stretch or have a cup of tea or move around. And so let's come back in 15 minutes and share what might have been present to you. I'll unmute myself now. Thank you. We have another 5 minutes here. Might invite us back now, and invite us to share what might have landed for us from that experience and how you might have explored it further. And if anyone wants to share, either via chat or lend your voice.
Hi. Um,
Thanks, Captain.
I feel like I was responding to a few parts of the video. I think there were a few
Mm-hmm.
moments where I found myself responding in different ways or thinking about it and responding in different ways. Um, I responded via movement because that's my main modality. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I found during most of the movement portions, even with the hiding that was happening, the physical hiding and turning,
Mm-hmm.
like I found myself, like I found like it was a hiding, but also like I'm just thinking about the
Mm-hmm.
reaching out part. Maybe I can't articulate the reaching out necessarily that was happening, but like I found myself
Mm-hmm.
wanting to just be near and not
Yeah.
necessarily not touching necessarily, but just like near and next to, and a desire to
Uh-huh.
just be with in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then when reaches, like physical reaches were actually happening, then to just like very tentatively like reach back.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, I live right by a train, so I don't know if you guys can hear that, but
No.
I also found like during, I think like there was a section with the there's kind of like a knot tangled
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
ball. There was the yarn ball, which I had a curiosity about, and I just found myself very curious about the unraveling and the untangling, but the staying with because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that part just brought a lot of curiosity to me. And as you can, this was
Mm-hmm.
the movement that was happening for me. And then
Yeah.
I think during the like there was the picture of the kind of like different colored tangle
Mm-hmm.
also that was being
Mm-hmm.
covered by different things. And
Mm-hmm.
I found myself actually wanting to actually just uncover.
Mm-hmm.
Like even though the layering
Mm-hmm.
was happening, it was kind of like I felt myself being like, I don't know. I want to reverse that process. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So there was a lot of
Uh-huh.
curiosity in there and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but that was
Mm-hmm.
like all my different responses.
Mm-hmm. And so much comes through in the movements that you have. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Mm.
I also responded to two of the similar sections with the movement piece too. There was a lot of the movements that indicated like reaching out, and but there were also ones that looked somewhat comfortable too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it kind of speaks to that, whether it's yourself or others, there is a comfort in not reaching out, even if it is
Mm-hmm.
not maybe the healthiest, or there is a comfort in isolation and not reaching out too. And I think there were a few positions of that, like retreat and on just on the floor and kind of in almost like a fetal position, that
Mm-hmm.
there was some comfort in those. And so I did those a lot in
Mm-hmm.
my stretching just now and kind of replicated those. And there is a comfort in just kind of shutting
Mm-hmm.
everything out and focusing and being very insular on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then the untangling of yarn in the office that we work in, there's a giant bin of yarn that we use with some clients. And so I went in and did the physical untangling of that too, because
Mm-hmm.
it's something I've noticed and that immediately resonated with me. And that
Mm-hmm.
act of untangling, I think, kind of resonates with there's a comfort in it too, or at least there's a lot of effort in reaching out. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you get comfortable and would rather leave it tangled, and navigating that can be really difficult. And
Yeah.
there is a lot of effort involved, and sometimes leaving it
Mm-hmm.
tangled is
Mm-hmm.
easier than
Mm-hmm.
navigating and uncrossing things or changing our patterns that have been tangled or established. And so those were the two sections I
Yeah.
responded to as well.
Yeah, thanks, Nolan. I feel like what you're describing as well is how experientially you felt into some of those moments by the doing, the kinesthetic, and it feels like it really allows a layer of knowing through that process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for that.
I can share real fast as well. One part of the video stood out for me. Was almost like the child pose, like on the floor, but like the arms reaching down. And I was thinking, I wonder if could be connecting from my own culture, that in China that symbolize like the bowing in Chinese
Yeah.
culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I felt that stood out for me, but that also reminded me of a book I read this year talk about like the ecstasy of surrender.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking about if someone having trouble looking in or have the empathy themselves, having that position would
Mm-hmm.
allowing them to have that connection. And
Mm-hmm.
and I was thinking how to express that creatively, and
Mm-hmm.
I just did a number two, like I drew
Mm-hmm.
like the number two. Sorry, it's blurry.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of, I don't know, like a symbol of like child pose, like humbling, but
Mm-hmm.
look within.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing, Jesse.
I know I shared in the chat, but I
Uh-huh.
also feel like as I'm listening to other people share, I I felt some of the same things, but then I also had like different experiences too. Like
Uh-huh.
there were parts of like especially when you were more doing like the movement pieces,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whether you were on the floor or against the wall, like some of those I felt like I didn't know how much you wanted me there. Like I
Uh-huh.
didn't know
Uh-huh.
how much you wanted
Mm-hmm.
connection in that moment. And so I felt like
Mm-hmm.
not not pushed away, but just like
Mm-hmm.
holding space for like you to be ready to reach out. And then when you did, I was like,
Uh-huh.
okay, cool. Like we're here now.
Yeah.
But there were definitely moments where I was like, I don't think you're reaching out. I think you don't want me anywhere near you.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Uh-huh.
and it was a really interesting feeling because I think that made me feel uncomfortable because I didn't know what my role was in those
Mm-hmm.
moments. And so I
Mm-hmm.
was feeling that discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
But then it kept
Mm-hmm.
going back to this like layering, which I had a very
Uh-huh.
different response to the layering where I felt like almost like it was protecting the painting underneath. Um,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
almost like building almost like a dam over it in a way of like
Uh-huh.
something like
Yes.
these layers, but then the more layers that happened, the more I was like, ooh, this is getting kind of precarious. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah. But then that
Yeah.
connects back to what Nolan was saying about like
Yes.
uh there's comfort in protection, but then there's also like
Uh-huh.
a point when it's like, at what point is it you're protecting yourself from whatever,
Uh-huh.
like the fear in this case, so much that you miss
Yes.
out on the opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to connect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love what you shared, Annie, about I think it grounds us as our work as professionals where this dilemma of I'm sensing something in my body, which is that this person here, Jaya, in this context, is needing distance. And then I am feeling like I don't know how to be with you in that experience. And how might I be in that moment with myself in the body? and I guess this is the question of embodied empathy, and even tuning into the not knowing is important. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think that's such a profound noticing. Thank you.
I think a lot of what I responded to was the shapes
Mm-hmm.
that were being made with the body, this like overarching shape and
Mm-hmm.
this pressed against the wall shape, um,
Mm-hmm.
like almost like melding into the structure or
Mm-hmm.
becoming like a shelled structure. Um, and once again, I didn't feel the impulse to like reach out and touch. That felt way like, no, thank you. So much
Mm-hmm.
as like, this is protective. I don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
seen or touched, and like how to hold space for that and to be safe in
Mm-hmm.
that space. Because there was a
Mm-hmm.
sense of I lack safety. And so like the
Yeah.
reaching didn't seem like
Mm-hmm.
a reaching in terms of like touch me, hold me, be near me, so much as like a reaching of
Mm-hmm.
like can you stay away from me? Will you
Mm-hmm.
respect this melting? Will you respect this space? Will you respect this
Mm-hmm.
structure that I've created with my body? And then
Mm-hmm.
once it turned, it was like, okay, maybe I can be observed. But once again, it wasn't like a reach out to me. It was like I can be
Mm-hmm.
witnessed now. I can maybe tolerate that.
Yeah.
So was it there was this evolution
Mm-hmm.
of need. And none of
Mm-hmm.
it particularly was a reaching out so much as a holding of space and
Yeah.
like okay, what I'm reaching for is not even me, or not even the other person, but the thing I am reaching
Mm-hmm.
for is something else. And so like most of my curiosity stemmed from like where do we make these body shapes before, like
Mm-hmm.
when have I seen this before, when has this been done before, like it clearly had
Mm-hmm.
much more meaning than I could
Mm-hmm.
personally ascribe. And like while I could pick up scenarios where I've seen it before, I was like, nope,
Mm-hmm.
this probably has a personal meaning. I guess like I
Yeah.
have way more questions about
Yeah.
this than I
Mm-hmm.
have any answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. And I guess that's the intention of this offering, is that we sit in the unknowing of that experience with another, in that curiosity, but then holding, and how much to come forth and how to be with it. And I loved what you said about often it was the experience of being held rather than needing reaching back. Yeah, that feels right for me. Mm, thanks for sharing. I might open it up for any one or two more people if you want to share.
Okay, can I share? Yeah,
Yes.
besides I have same reaction as everybody shared from the body shape. I'm dance therapist.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more
Mm-hmm.
into the rhythm. I saw
Mm-hmm.
the I since I saw the body not ready to be reached, I'm
Mm-hmm.
try to re-experience what you experienced through
Mm-hmm.
the art, all tangled art, different color, and especially heard that sounds cracking, cracking, cracking. Feel that fear as a torture inside, even doing this. So I've tried to feel internal rhythm. I'm using my body, do
Mm-hmm.
the twisting, do the shrinking, doing the fighting,
Mm-hmm.
biting. Now I feel like even when I embody this experience, the internal intensity of a rhythm, then I can
Mm-hmm.
maybe I want to, like Catherine said, untangle it and untangle it.
Mm-hmm.
Just try to maybe clicking out
Mm-hmm.
because only you embody what the client embodied, then maybe then when she's there ready, and then we can slowly let internal rhythm to
Uh-huh.
embody it externally. That time the
That's right.
new express
Mm-hmm.
language and the symbolic language can come. So that
Mm-hmm.
just take that time to change the rhythm, the intensity. I'm reaching out, just wait.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Mm-hmm.
experience is very powerful. That can bring
Mm-hmm.
your empathy in their
Mm.
embodied. When I work
Yes.
with my student, they just said, what I can do, what can I say, don't think about what you can do with my teacher. Just embody to feel. If you feel the
Yes.
rhythm, you know how to leading them out.
Uh-huh. Yes,
So
absolutely.
yeah, I want
Beautiful.
to share that. That
Beautiful.
was very powerful
Th-
because they have sounds, they have a color, then they have a
Yes.
body. The
Yes.
all sensation can give you a very
Yes.
powerful impact.
Yes. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. And I love what you said about don't do anything, just feel create the shape of their body. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, thank you.
I guess coming from a music perspective, I would agree a lot with the
Mm-hmm.
rhythm and the
Mm-hmm.
I also kind of felt uh I was always taught like match them first musically and then kind of try and shift.
Mm-hmm.
So um
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of like dissonance, low, loud,
Mm-hmm.
um
Mm-hmm.
fast, and then um kind of would slowly um if if I were to try and guide them out of that maybe slow
Mm-hmm.
it down a little bit, expand to some higher notes, some uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely, yeah, felt like at sometimes I felt like if my body was responding, like I felt like I wanted to go over and be like just like curious, like what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess
Mm-hmm.
yeah, musically, I'd probably just match them first,
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And I feel like there's a certain places where it's really um frantic. The sounds are quite frantic and scratchy and yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely reacted to the sounds a lot too. I was like,
yeah.
whoa, whoa. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Marisa. I wondered if we could now explore a shape that your body might make in response for a moment, because this is a long 6 minute thing, but let's just imagine one moment. It could be a sound or a texture, and if you were sitting in the room with me, what might be a shape that your body might make? So it might invite you to play with that for a couple minutes and see if you land on a shape and um, feel into that. Um, and as we find the shape, just a little nerdy thing about our skin, that the skin has about, I don't know how many neuroreceptors that is, or 40,000 neurons that operate separately from our brain. So imagining the neurons on your skin as a way to sense into the moment with me here, and how might your skin allow you to listen. And once you have a sense of the shape, you might want to reflect on that as to how does that allow you to be with me in your body. If you want to write a phrase down that feels important now. I might just give us another minute here before we transition to the last experiential for today. And while we're waiting, are there any questions or any things that need to be expressed now?
I just had a thought and it kind of resulted in a question. And, thinking about like my shape or like my body responding to you in that moment. And I went into this place of like, in being empathetic, there is I can't purely see your experience through your lens. I'm only seeing it through my lens and my experience and what I can relate to or what I know. And so without knowing specifically, I felt like I had a lot of assumption in my empathy. And so instead of responding to what I thought you needed, I responded to what I needed as like the feeling that I felt for you and hoping that like I could be a grounding place to connect back to at some point.
Yeah.
And so I guess like where for you do you find that line of like almost like projecting our own experience as empathy versus truly embodying empathy and understanding of people around us?
That's such a layered question, Annie. And I feel like that's a really important ethical consideration too, right? Like, when am I so uncomfortable in my body that I am trying to be compensating somehow for your work, for your experience? And when is it that I'm feeling like this is more mine than yours? And when do I feel that shared thread? And I think this is why I feel like that baseline, and for me the baseline is our own practice of being in the body. And it can't be only when we are with clients that we are in our bodies, but and how do we befriend that knowing of ourselves? And it's a sort of continuous process so that we can be more present to another. But for me, it's also about being descriptive, the language of description, like, here's what I'm sensing, and allowing the client to clarify for themselves, no, actually that's not my experience. and for them to then share what's important for them, which is different from the analyzing or to come to conclusions, but really being descriptive. I also come from the school of intersubjectivity. So it is that nothing is in isolation, and that what I feel in my body is always in response to, in relation to you, and vice versa. So it's not, I guess, for me, so much about separating and distilling, but really about, I think, this word curiosity that came up so many times today is how might I be curious about something I notice, and what of that feels like alive for me enough to have to be explored further, either in the session with my client, or you know with peers, or yeah, or my own exploration like I did with fear for myself. Yeah, thanks for that question.
Yeah, I really appreciate your response. Thank you so much. I took away like that experience of like a an interconnectedness, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
instead of it being just mine or just yours, but how
Mm-hmm.
we're all kind of like energy that bounces off of each other and is impacted by each other, and
Yes,
how do we attune to each other. And
yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
thank you so much.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, love that description. Yeah, thank you. So we might now go into the last exploration. I might just pull up the slide here. So what I'm going to invite you to do is now have a think about a client or a patient that you might be working with, who's not the most complex client you've got. You have enough capacity to explore them without getting overwhelmed yourself. And if you might just imagine them now in this moment and shape your body as them, and you might shape your whole body, or you might shape it through a gesture or a movement. I'm not inviting you to mirror them. I'm asking you to embody from your intelligence of your body. So I'll just give you a moment first and I'll guide you through this process. So you might firstly find a shape in your body that feels closest to how you experience your client or patient. I know different places use different languaging for that. And once you find that shape, I'm going to invite you to firstly move around as that shape. So take a moment, and if you want to get up and walk in the world in that shape. And as you find your as you find your way in, firstly notice what in the world are you looking at? What are you looking at? Where are you looking? Noticing any physical sensations or emotions that you are now becoming aware of. what is the rhythm of movement or rhythm of being in their body? What are the qualities that you might notice? I want us to notice our relationship to gravity from this shape. Do we experience a ground beneath us? Do we experience support? And what qualities of that experience feel important? And the last little exploration could be if you notice a particular aspect of the body, for example, like when I'm thinking of my client, I'm thinking about really um, narrowing my shoulder. And if I might just exaggerate that, like make it as narrow as I possibly could without feeling uncomfortable. What else do we notice when we isolate and exaggerate a particular aspect of the body? Like I notice I can't breathe at all, and I look only down. I can't look up. So just take a moment here, explore that on your own. And from this experience now, just come back into your own body. So I want you to release the shape, stretch, and come into the neutral. So now you are able to let go of that. See what you need to do. I notice I want to shake my body and make some sound. See what you want to do. You might want to come back into your room and find something in it that you really like as a way to orient back into your body. And I think I'm going to invite us to share not what insights you received, but how did you know something more about your client or patient? How did your body communicate the intelligence of this way of knowing? So what I'm interested to hear is not so much the content of their experience, because that's confidential, but the how. The how did you come to know of that? So I'm just going to stop sharing so I can see everyone. And if anyone wants to share or share on chat. Uh-huh. Thanks, Catherine. And I wonder how that felt for you to feel that in your body. If you want to add that to the chat.
I think it was, for me at least, that transition from thinking of a seated position to after you described moving through the world and like the space I'm in with that position
Mm-hmm.
gave so much more weight to it and just
Mm-hmm.
the how much of a force gravity truly is on our
Mm-hmm.
clients and what they're holding and
Mm-hmm.
just being it was such a just weighted feeling on my knees and my shoulders,
Mm-hmm.
my entire body
Mm-hmm.
being pulled down.
Mm-hmm.
Was so much more relevant as I was trying to move through space with that position.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this was it the experience of the difficulty in moving through the world? Is that what
Moving
you're
through the
describing
world,
here?
given everything they are holding and
Mm-hmm.
trying to navigate the world
Mm-hmm.
in whatever form of normalcy that the world
Mm-hmm.
is also prescribing to them and the weight of that and just
Yeah.
yeah, how much physically that is on your
Mm-hmm.
body.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah. Beautifully said. Yeah. Thank you.
I had this experience of doing a movement that
Mm-hmm.
like sort of used both hands kind of spread out like
Mm-hmm.
over like the sternum and
Mm-hmm.
holding. And as I was moving, I kind of felt like almost this like as I moved my arms up and down, it almost felt like a flying position a little bit.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Um,
Uh-huh.
but then if I put my arms down, I felt very, very constricted. And I feel like
Uh-huh.
that I was
Beautiful.
making connections back to my
Mm-hmm.
client and how they move through the world and the
Mm-hmm.
restrictions that they experience, but also like
Mm-hmm.
the things that give them flight in a metaphorical
Yes.
way.
Beautiful. Yeah. And how that might be actually a resource.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
distraction, the flying away, yeah, the moving out.
And how I came to that movement is like a lot of times as we're closing, because we're virtual,
Uh-huh.
we do this thing where we like
Uh-huh.
put our hands over our hearts
Yeah.
and just kind of like hold for each other,
Uh-huh.
just like the
Yeah.
experience. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was a very natural like go-to of just like,
Yeah.
oh well, yeah, um that's
Yeah.
our ending movement.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, just a little bit
Oh,
exaggerated.
beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. And it feels like I'm sensing into how moving that felt for you. I need to explore that. Yeah, and to feel confirmed in yourself that you're meeting them somewhere.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah. And thanks for everyone on chat as well. Mm-hmm. I might have, if anyone wants to share, one more person to share, and then just land together.
Okay, I'd like to share. We talk about your body because I work with a lot of trauma patients in my past. And just that reflection in my body. For me, first important thing is the tension flow. When the tension flow comes, I just can feel their trauma. They have terrible memory in that moment. Even they haven't told me the story yet. When I
Yeah.
work with some patient, said, "Oh, I'm so happy," but her body was like twisting, like a vomiting. And when we get into deep, she froze. And just that frozen, that I can't tell. Just those memory. My body, I just
Yeah.
embody them. The intensity of shifting, the intensity of the tension flow at that moment. There is a trauma. I know a patient has always have a panic attack, sort of self have heart problem, but he doesn't have any heart problem. So when we scan body, when we get into the heart, her body shaking, my body shaking with him. Just right at the moment, I said, I got it. I can feel, I got it. That memory is there. Then her childhood, how he be attacked, and how he grow out those things, and can throw at his body, his chest, never told anybody. So just like you have to experience the patient's intensity flow. Sometimes the shaping is okay, but if superficial shaping sometimes reflect get an even opposite of a result. You just have to feel internal rhythm. That rhythm is the truth. Get
Yeah,
into
I
your
love that.
body. And
Yeah.
I saw an image of the client want me to supervision, and the student. And there's one boy, he just doing this, walking. She said, I asked him, relax, flow with me. He won't. I said, look at you, go with him. He has so much anger, hate. There, just feel the intensity. I mean, even look at the video from the screen. I got that intensity, the anger I'll build on my shoulder, on my legs. I said that is information his
Beautiful.
body is telling you. So that
Yes.
memory always in our body. So afterwards, you just exhausted because you're really with them. That's
Yes,
hard.
absolutely.
Yeah, we
Yes.
use our body at work. You talk about intelligence of the body. That's what we're
Yes.
training the body to feel it. Sometimes
Yes.
very challenging, very exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Thanks, Linda. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm just going to bring the last slide. I think it's sort of already we've touched upon the ways in which we attune through our body, and just to remember, I guess, for all of us, that our body is more than the brain. I mean, there are so many. If we just even isolate to neurons or neuroreceptors, um, that there are so many ways in which we listen through different. And I think someone, I forget now who said that about that impulse, the movement impulse too. And I think this motor impulse as well is part of that way of hearing and listening to another, to each other, to us. So just wanted to share that. And I'll end with feel free to follow my work. I put a lot of my own explorations as I find in my work with clients in my body. So, this experience of how do I put something inside my body so that I can really be in the process from within rather than from the outside in. And I share a lot as well on my social media pages. So I'll just put that screen if you want to take a screenshot. But I would want to hear if there are any questions, or actually before that, let's just come back to our body. So like we started, we found ourselves on the chair and we found the weight of our body. So you might just want to take a moment and come back into, I think what Linda said as well is that this is a lot of work. And so we always have to come back to our body. Otherwise, it can be a very intense feeling of holding another and losing our own body. And again, sense into what might be the qualities of your presence now. If we, let's say, listen to our skin, what might we be noticing through our skin? Like I'm feeling a shift in temperature in my body. I feel a bit more warm just now. I also notice my hands are quite cold. Thanks everyone for your presence today and participation. I feel very blessed to be here in this moment with all of you and feel very touched by your presence and your curiosity. So thank you so much for your time. I wonder if there's, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Linda. If anyone wants to just unmute and have the last word in some ways before we finish. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Jaya.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaya.
Thanks. Have a
Thank
good
you.
rest of your day.
Thank you.